Welcome to the official YouTube channel for me, the Colin Cowherd Podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of our football content this postseason. Going to have instant reactions after every big game. Thanks. Okay, instant reaction on the Rams hammering the Minnesota Vikings. Well, Sam Darnold had a chance at some point to be a $50 million quarterback, and he'll probably now get closer to a Baker Mayfield contract, which will be in the 30 millions. My kind of takeaway with the last couple of weeks is I think Minnesota is going to move off Darnold and go with J.J. McCarthy and back up with Daniel Jones. I think for the most of the season that you couldn't do that. I think I think all of us watched throughout the course of the season and thought you can't let Sam go. But this is the way the league works. I mean, coaches get fired because of bad back-to-back games at the end of the season. And I think it's that simple. I just think the last couple of weeks, you could see the frustration. Kevin O'Connell. And by the way, tonight was mentor versus student. McVay against Kevin O'Connell. I mean, McVay with extra prep time. They looked really good. But I think Kevin O'Connell's frustration on the sideline, he's very authentic, and when he's angry, and his frustration with Sam Darnold. And listen, I like Bo Nix, I like Sam Darnold, I like Justin Herbert. They all played poor football. They all fell behind early in the first half, and they're trying to make plays. And last game of the year, you're trying to make plays. And frankly, the Rams defense has gotten so much better. The Rams are really an interesting story. They have not missed on their defensive draft picks. They've missed on some offensive draft picks. Tutu Atwell, second-round receiver, never been as good as they thought. Logan Bruss, kind of a miss. Interior lineman, second or third-round guy. They don't miss on defense. Jared Verse is incredible. That's a 10-time Pro Bowler. I mean, his speed and power for his size. He was chasing down Darnold at the end of the game. And you're like, a 260-pound guy shouldn't run like that. He is a bull. Had a touchdown on that fumble recovery in the first half of the game. I think when you look at the Rams, they had 8 sacks in the first month of the season. They had 8 sacks tonight. And Greg Cosell said last Thursday on the show, and I asked him, I said, I'm kind of go either way in that game. And he stopped me. And he said, the Rams defensive line, if you look at the film, is going to be a major problem for the Vikings, and it will decide the game. And that's why I picked the Rams. I said that with Chad Billman on Sharper Square. Greg Cosell, he does this a handful of times during the year. He feels so strongly about something, and he just said the Rams D-line will decide the game. And they just haven't missed. Kobe Turner, Jared Verse, Young from a couple years ago, Braden Fisk, Florida State. I mean, all those guys can play. Their back end is more mid-round guys, but really well coached. You get nothing free over the top. They're a combination of a young, athletic, twitchy team getting better every 5 to 6 weeks. You look up and you think, oh, okay, this team's better than they were, in September and October. And they're going to give Philadelphia a real game. Now, Philadelphia played so poorly, I think they'll be really focused. But this Rams D-line, it won't be muted by Philadelphia's O-line. I mean, they'll pressure Jalen Hurts to some degree, and Hurts hasn't played, from concussion on. We'll see what we get. Generally, when quarterbacks get concussions, they can be fuzzy for a couple of weeks. I think Jalen Hurts will play much better football against the Rams than he did this past week against Green Bay, and I like Philadelphia in that game. I thought the Rams for about 3 quarters played perfect football tonight. But, going back to Sam Darnold, I think Darnold, and this is what's great about the NFL, is that, after Buffalo lost to the Rams, I'm like, oh boy, Buffalo's not good enough defensively. And then they go on a run. And as I've often said with kids, the days are long, the years fly by. The NFL, week to week, you don't know exactly what you're getting, but over the course of a year, great coaches with great quarterbacks win a lot. So if you look at the AFC, it's Mahomes and Andy Reid is left, John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, Sean McDermott and Josh Allen and D'Amico Ryans and C.J. Stroud. You look over on the other side, and what a shock is Stafford and McVay once again are ready to go. You've got the great Detroit staff and Jared Goff. So this stuff over the course of time, when Stafford is healthy and people aren't getting to him. I mean, when's the last time? I mean, he hasn't felt pressure in a month. So the Rams are really good on both lines. They just couldn't stay healthy for the first 8 weeks. But right now Puka got banged up tonight. So did Kyron Williams. If those guys come back, they'll be at full strength against Philadelphia. I think they've got a shot. Again, the McVay and Stafford equation, they've got a shot. But it looked like tonight when they jumped out to that lead, it felt like Andy Reid off a bye. And I don't think there's any. I think Andy Reid and McVay are the best play designers in the league. And I think McVay is it's like the opposite of the Pittsburgh Steelers. McVay is constantly updating and adapting and evolving his schemes, his sets. You just don't know what you're getting with him. I thought he got a little predictable about 3 to 4 years ago, and he probably thought that too. And now you're never quite sure what you're getting. The Rams are a really good team, and I thought Minnesota had an amazing year. But listen, we all kind of thought they were a third or fourth place team, and the truth eventually comes out. The truth came out with the Broncos. They got into the playoffs, but they were a year ahead of schedule. The truth came out with the Chargers. What a great story. They're not a great team. They need more offensive playmakers. So the truth comes out the longer any business exists. It's like good football teams. There's always been a theory. If you have a better football team, you want more plays. So you just, Ohio State earlier this year, I think it was Urban Meyer talked about this. They weren't playing very fast. And considering how good they weren't producing a lot of plays in the game. Now, if you watch Ohio State play, they're playing more up-tempo and faster. And that's what Ohio State should want to play like. They have the best players. And so you slow the game down when you're trying to kill the clock or eat clock and you don't feel you have good personnel. I'm looking at the Rams right now, and I don't think they're as good as Detroit or Philadelphia or Buffalo in terms of overall talent, but I don't think the gap's that big. Now, they need everybody healthy, so Kyron Williams has to play. They're not terribly great. Blake Corum hasn't done anything this year as a rookie. Ronnie Rivers, Fresno State running back, is a number 3 guy. If Kyron Williams is not available, it's not quite – the offense isn't as punchy. But, I was looking around at some numbers. Let me just look real quick. I was talking about Darnold. Every Darnold early sack, every one early, he held onto the ball for at least 3.2 seconds. And again, Joe Burrow does that a little bit. Joe Burrow is looking for big plays. He'll hold the ball just a little longer. The difference is Burrow is a more accurate thrower than Darnold. Darnold, the ball can sail. He's not quite as naturally accurate. But a lot of these quarterbacks, Andrew Luck did that. Joe Burrow does it. Darnold does it. Big Ben at times did that. They hold the ball a little longer because they want the big play. Sam loves to throw the ball down the field. He'd prefer not the dink and dunk. He's always been, almost to a fault, he wants to throw it deep. But the thing with Darnold, he was a great student all year. He just bombed the final. It doesn't mean he's an F student. He's a B student. He's not an A student. And there's only about 7 of those in the league, or 6. But I think the teams that were exposed this weekend, Minnesota got beat up, Denver got beat up, Chargers got beat up, Packers got beat up. Are any of you surprised? I mean, really, it's we went into this weekend, we're like Buffalo, Baltimore, Philadelphia. Rams was go either way, but after Cosell said what he told you and me, I like the Rams. But I don't think it was a terribly surprising weekend. I think eventually you get exposed in this league at this level, and playoff football is different. It's the same thing in playoff baseball. It's the same thing in playoff basketball, is that it is hard. Pro athletes, it's hard to fake it. You're playing Carolina, it's week 7. It's hard sometimes. People have lives and wives and kids, and they're banged up, and to get complete attention and urgency, and the NFL keeps expanding the schedule. You get into these playoff games, and those coaches, Those games are often standalone. The entire league is watching it. There's a real vanity. Like Sean McVay put on a coaching clinic tonight. That was a flex. That first half was an absolute flex by Sean McVay, mentor, teaching student. So fun weekend. The big dogs advance. Now, there's at least four new playoff teams every year. Four new playoff teams. So I've been pretty good. I've been pretty lucky at predicting the four new playoff teams. The teams to keep your eye out for. And remember, when I said Washington, you were very critical, very hurtful. I'm going to tell you, if they have a good draft and they have the most cap room, keep your eye on New England. You think I'm crazy. You thought I was nuts with Washington. You thought I was nuts with the Rams before. Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniel, if they go buy a T. Higgins, hit on another running back, shore up the O-line, keep your eye on New England. That's my surprise team next year. And not just because I like Mike Vrabel. So we head into the next weekend of games. I'll tell you, starting with Notre Dame on Thursday over Penn State until tonight, Rams kind of hammering the Vikings. That was about as good a 5-day stretch of football as I remember. The games weren't all great, but I hope you know this. I'm so grateful for what I do and so thankful for this that I get to sit and watch football and then shoot the you-know-what on this thing. NFL playoffs? We're talking about NFL playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is a key to winning in the NFL playoffs, and the key to you scoring big is betting on them. At DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. If you're ready to place your first bet, make it really simple. A player scoring a touchdown. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook's app, download it, make your pick. Here's another reason to watch your favorite players crush it on the playoffs. If you're a new customer, you bet $5, that's it. $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly by betting just $5. So score big, DraftKings Sportsbook during the playoffs. Download the app, use the code Colin, COLIN. That will get you $200 in bonus bets if you bet the $200. So if you want $200 in bonus bets, you got to put in the code Colin. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. I want to talk, if I could, about Deion Sanders to the Dallas Cowboys. So I got a text tonight from Jordan Schultz, and he reported Cowboys owner Jerry Jones has spoken with Deion Sanders regarding the possible job, and there is some mutual interest here. Coach Prime is considered a top candidate, though the Cowboys plan to interview other candidates. I thought it was very interesting talking to Matt Mosley today on my show. And Matt's been covering the Cowboys forever. Whenever you see a Cowboy press conference after a game, Matt's the one with the dark sunglasses. Very, very funny guy. Baylor guy. Funny guy. Really like him. Does the Doomsday podcast with Ed Werder, who I also like. And, he said something today. He's not going to hire some young offensive coordinator. What really bothered Jerry this year was empty seats and the apathy around the Cowboys. And that really bothered Jerry Jones. And that's why Deion, first I think that's not going to happen. Deion Sanders is going to sell tickets. Is he the best candidate? I don't know. I mean, we were all surprised how well they did at Colorado. Colorado was like a bottom 3 college football program when he arrived. He was getting like 5-star athletes. So, I think Deion Sanders could build a good staff, but this is Jerry. I mean, let's be honest. Name another coach. In fact, I don't think there's another coach you could hire that would create more buzz than Deion Sanders. I don't think Belichick would create that buzz. We've seen Belichick. We saw it the last several years. Grumpy Bill Belichick. I mean, it would be interesting. I think Deion Sanders would be sort of a revelation. and people, there'd be a lot of mystery. Mystery fascinates people. That's why conspiracy theorists on podcasts. I mean, yeah, one of the things that really gets attention for people with small audiences in the podcasting space is a conspiracy theory. People are interested. It's the mystery. It's the unknown, and that's why magic's so popular. We all know it's fake, but it's like, oh, how did you do that? And I think Deion Sanders has a how will he do quality. I mean, Mike Vrabel's going to win in New England, right? Like Harbaugh was going to win with the Chargers. I mean, that's Andy Reid, Kansas City. A lot of Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, they were going to do just fine in Washington. I don't know how Deion would do as a pro coach. I don't know. He's a better football coach in college than I would have guessed. There's not that many former star players that make good coaches. You need patience. You got to be a grinder. And a lot of star players are just naturally gifted. It's like how many all-time great baseball players are great baseball managers. I mean, Doc Rivers was a pretty good player, wasn't a great player. So, I mean, Jason Kidd has been successful. That's Jerry West, but Jerry West didn't like coaching. He liked GMing, the late Jerry West. So I think Deion would be fascinating, and I think when Matt Mosley said that today, that the apathy around the Cowboys really got Jerry's attention, and there's a sameness to Mike McCarthy. He's a very good coach. He's not fascinating. He's not captivating. He doesn't have a vibe. He's not cool. He's not alpha. Mike McCarthy's just a nice guy, good football coach. So I think McCarthy is going to go and light it up if he goes to Chicago. I think he'll do really well, or with the Steelers, or with the Jets. Bears is where I think it fits best. I think Deion to the Cowboys. Listen, I'm in the interesting business. Wouldn't you watch? I my take on Dallas is Troy Aikman said this on ESPN today. I don't think it's a great job. I think the Chargers job with Herbert was a great job. Had your left tackle, had a couple of good pass rushers, had Derwin James, had a good draft pick. Like that was a good job. I think New England's a pretty good job. The roster's not very good, but you got Drake May and Robert Kraft, so you have stability and ownership and the quarterback of the future. I don't think Dallas. I think you just have to navigate around an outrageous contract to a quarterback who got worse after his first injury, and now he's recovering from a second. So I don't think it's a great job. You know, Deion would make it, however, a captivating job. And that's what we're all here for.